You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this big show. For 16 years, we're bringing the Chris Voss Show, and more applause buttons, evidently. And we bring you the smartest people on this show. There's over 2,000 episodes of the Chris Voss Show, and we call ourselves now the Netflix of podcasting. You can binge watch just about any topic you want on the Chris Voss Show, because we have everybody on who's the smartest people. We don't allow dumb people on the show. I'm the only dumb idiot that's allowed on the show, but I own the show, so that's how I got on. Otherwise, they don't let me out. So anyway, guys, we always have amazing authors on the show. We have another one on today sharing his insights, his business, and how he built it, et cetera, et cetera. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss for your family and friends to join us at linkedin.com and facebook.com/Chris Voss, all those crazy places on the internet. We have a gentleman on with his newest book that's coming out June 1st, 2024. I had to remind myself it's 2024 because I'm really not ready for June. That's halfway through the year. Stop. Make it stop. Slow down. His newest book is called Building Success, a Toolbox for Coming Out on Top. Tommy Whitehead joins us on the show today. We'll be talking about his amazing new book, his business insights, his experience, and you'll probably learn a whole mess of stuff that can make your life better. Tommy Whitehead is a licensed residential contractor and president and owner of Tomco Solutions Incorporated, which specializes in full-service residential property makeovers. That includes kitchen and bath renovations, new door and window installations, processing insurance claims as part of disaster restoration services, and rehabbing properties for major real estate investment trusts. He's also a passionate volunteer and fundraiser for many worthy causes. When he's not working or volunteering, he enjoys theme parks, museums, and relaxing by a pool with a family. Who doesn't? There you go. Welcome to the show, Tommy. How are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. And let me say, it was ingenious to name the show after yourself, so they shouldn't be able to kick you off of it. That's pretty good.
That's true. We almost named it like something general, but I was like, I'm not sure if we'll want to be talking about social media and Twitter 10 years from now. It turns out we weren't. So there you go.
Well, I'm very excited about being part of a show that has a warning about brain bleeds. That's pretty cool.
We'll see if we can get some brain bleeding going. So welcome to the show. Congratulations on the new book. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you, look you up on the interwebs?
So one of the easiest ways to do it is TommyWhitehead.com. Try to keep it real simple. My company's website's TomcoSolutions.com. But all my links are out on either one of those: podcast, books, LinkedIn. Plenty easy to find me if you do a Google search on my name.
There you go. There you go. I'm always found on the FBI's most wanted list. That's where my search history goes. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book on building success?
So my book covers growing up poor, all the challenges, things, and problems I've had. It talks about my success, but it really talks about a lot of the failures and what I've learned from them and going along. So I really made it. It sounds like a construction book. It's not. You're not going to find any renovation tips on it. So don't buy that if you're trying to pick color samples. But what it does talk about is being a contractor and being different, considered a disruptor, doing things like podcasts. You know, there's not many contractors on podcasts except for construction podcasts, using public relations, using social media, doing things to help my community, sitting on multiple nonprofit boards. And so it just kind of goes through and learns all the little, talks about all the little quirky things in my life.
There you go. And how you built your life, right? Your business?
Absolutely. Yeah. We talk about building it and then failing and then building it back and maybe failing again and then finally building it back again. Hopefully, finally. We'll see, who knows?
Yeah, knock on wood. Well, I've seen your pictures and your sites and stuff. So it looks like you're definitely on the right track and doing well. This is one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize you've got to do. You've got to fail to succeed, and a lot of successful, in fact, every successful person really fails. I don't know too many people who failed, or I'm sorry, who succeeded right out of the gate. Maybe if they took over their, nepotism father's business, then they didn't have problems. And we can all just hate on those people because they had it easy.
Yeah,
I'm sure
we see on social media all the time. We see all the pictures of success and the Ferraris and
yeah,
the pretty young things and all the other stuff we see. We never see what led to that.
yeah,
And we're all guilty, including myself. So I thought, you know what? At least let me write it down. Let me prove that, hey, all the cool stuff on my LinkedIn is awesome to look at, but there was
mhm,
so much more behind getting to that point.
yeah. They never show the brain bleed, so that's why we have people on the show to talk about their brain bleed, so we can find out what the true story was and how they got there. So you talk about something called a toolbox for coming out on top. What is this toolbox?
So they're little nuggets of wisdom in every chapter that
Mm,
kind of tell a story. You learn something in my story, and then it gets a bullet point. It's a tool that can help you succeed. And I boil down an entire chapter into one or two sentences that are quick, often funny, or thought provoking. And it just kind of makes you think, oh, wow, it is that simple. And sometimes we get in our own heads and stop our own selves. And sometimes it is as simple as a two-sentence cliche saying that can actually break the mold and get you past where you're at.
there you go. Well, it's I like this line from your Amazon page here in the description. His story of climbing out of the poverty to run a hugely successful contracting firm has more twists and turns than a cheap garden hose. I like that analogy. That's pretty good.
It
Um,
was is a little homage to my Southern heritage. It was a little bit of
uh,
Dolly Parton esque
uh,
comedy. And
mm,
when I wrote that, I'm like, okay, this has her style to it, and I'm like, okay, that's
there you go.
just a little tribute to heritage.
Oh yeah, I grew up with those cheap garden hoses, man. They're the worst.
They
You
are
spend like
horrible.
half an hour trying to unroll it just so you get water to come out the other end. I don't know about you, but I was a Gen X kid, so we were latchkey kids, so we lived on hose water. So you had to get that hose to work if you wanted
Oh, I
water.
was a poor kid, so I'm just at the cutoff at X and millennial,
Oh,
right?
there you go.
But
There you
yes,
go.
I have had plenty of sips out of the well water in the midday because why go
Yeah,
inside?
yeah. Why go inside? Well, your mother wouldn't let you inside usually.
Exactly, you're too dirty or nasty, or
Get out of the
you'd be lucky
house.
if you'd be lucky if she didn't take that hose and give you a bath outside.
Yeah, yeah. Get out of the house. Get out of my hair. And all that stuff. In fact, I was just watching the other day a TikTok of where they replayed the old thing from the '80s, where it was like, "It's 10 o'clock at night. Do you know where your kids are?" Remember that?
Yeah.
They had to tell a generation of parents, "Hey, you're about to go to bed. Do you know where your kids are?
Where are they?
Where are your? You might want to check. They could be, I don't know, at anyway. So they could be transporting cocaine from Colombia because it's the '80s. No, I'm just kidding. So in the book, you open up about different things and examples. There's one conversation you mentioned about an awkward pool conversations. What's that about, eh?
So kind of strange. So I was at the point where I was divorced from my wife, and I was dating men and women, and I was at a resort, and it was a gay resort, and it was just a bunch of people around in a pool. All of a sudden, I see somebody, a subcontractor of mine, a
Hmm.
vendor, and I'm not out at work in the construction industry. And this was 10 plus years ago. So in the construction industry, especially 10 years ago, was not comfortable being or having any kind of different lifestyle. And so I saw somebody, and even though, okay, so he's at a gay pool party, I'm at a gay pool party. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. But in my mind, it was like, oh my God, I'm just been outed at work. It's going to be horrible. He's going to tell everybody. And
Oh wow.
it was awkward. It was very awkward for me. Now, in reality,
You can
guys
tell
don't
on each
typically
other,
out each
actually.
other. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't usually tell on each other. Well, no, he was out at his work, so
Oh,
it was
okay.
okay
Ah,
because
I see.
he was a subcontractor in a company that was a lot more
Oh,
accepting than the company I worked at.
oh, yeah.
So it was awkward, but then again, at the end of the day, it was no big deal. It was nothing. It was something you worked up in your head. I worked up in my head, and it was done with.
That would be awkward. Especially
Very.
at least you were divorced from your wife at the time. It would have been funnier if you hadn't been divorced from your wife. I caught you there. He's like, I thought you were straight, but whatever.
Yeah, and I have met people like that before too. I've never been in that position, so
I know a couple of religions where people do that. They're yeah, locally actually in Utah. So, give us a talk about. Tell us about your upbringing. What shaped you? What got you into being an entrepreneur? What was motivations or influences for you?
See, I always knew as a little kid I wanted to make money. I wanted to be in business. I didn't know what that was, but I grew up in poverty and we didn't have money for lots of things. All the way through school, like I purposely graduated high school a year early. I was
Wow.
16 years old when I graduated. And in my senior year, I actually worked 45 hours a week in addition to going to school to help bring money home for groceries and other things.
And was
So
that
I always
because you
knew I
grew
wanted
up?
to be better.
Is that because you grew up poor? Is that what motivated you? What caused that
I
to
think
happen?
so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't want my kid, and I'm fortunate enough to have a son, almost 15 now. I didn't want him to experience the same things that I experienced.
Mm.
It's a little scary if there's yelling and arguing going on for money. It's a little scary if you don't know if there's food money or not. You get told the power's off because the line's down off the road, and then you figure out all your neighbors have power, so why is our power off? And all of a
Ah.
sudden it's, oh
Yeah, I'm at
yeah,
my
it's not.
friend's house. The power seemed to
Yeah,
work fine, Mom and
it
Dad.
works fine next door, so why is it off here? Those kinds of things, and you don't realize until you're an adult what was really happening there. And your parents try the best that they can, but it's
Yeah.
still, I just knew that I wanted to do something better, and I knew I was going to have to push myself very hard to break that cycle.
I had the same experience growing up. My parents had ups and downs, and parents do their best. They're two people doing the best they can, and whether it's with economies or everything else, or personalities, your parents are just doing their best. But I would do the same thing. I grew up poor. I couldn't bring my friends over because we had welfare cans in the food and
Yeah,
stuff from the Mormon church in
I,
the
I was in
fridge.
that situation.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so my friends would come over and be like, "Oh, your parents are on welfare. I can see it in your fridge." And so it was just that way, but I lived, and
Yeah.
that motivated me to become successful. So it's interesting how sometimes you see people that grow up rich and they don't really care about it and they throw it all away because they just don't understand how valuable that sort of tool is. And then you see people who have lack and they go and fill that hole. So sometimes I look back and I go, maybe it's better that you grow up with lack. You know, you
Yeah,
appreciate
and
things a little bit more.
I wonder that as well. Even raising your own kid, you try to give them everything you didn't have, and does that only add to their detriment later in life?
Oh
Because
yeah.
you want them to have that respect. So it's a fine line, and each parent has to answer that for themselves. But
Mm.
I don't have a day I think that I ever wake up and think something could happen today that could cause me to go back to that situation. The likelihood of that is smaller and smaller as my career develops. But I
Mm.
still think, what happened if this happened and all of a sudden we had no payments for mortgage, and then we don't have this, and then all these little niceties and luxuries that we became used to over the last year or two from working so hard are completely gone? What if we're back to standing in a bread line, um, literally trying to get food? And so I think that motivates me even stronger, that I will
Yeah.
not do that. And then now I have a lot of people working for me and I don't want them to go through that. So it's not just my family now, it's a lot of families I feed. And so I got to ensure that I'm doing well and being successful to support them as well. So
Yeah.
it keeps you motivated.
There you go. Suvair Hassan. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Says congratulations from LinkedIn. But yeah, that's one of the interesting things about becoming an employer. When you become an employer and you get lots of employees, you realize that you're beholden to them and their futures and their jobs, especially if you're a smaller employer. If
Yep.
you're a corporation, you don't give a shit about anything. Evidently, I don't know. That's just a joke, people. I'm kidding. It seems that way. But no, you're like, I remember having some awakening moment somewhere in my business where we had nearly 100 employees, and I'm sitting there, signing the old stacks of checks
Mhm.
every Friday, every other Friday, and I'm sitting there going, "Holy crap, that's all." These people, if I fuck up, these people will suffer.
Yep.
And I'm just like, wow, I thought I had pressure before, but now I got some pressure. So there you
Yeah,
go.
now you don't explain to just your spouse or your kid. Now you got to
Yeah,
explain to a
yeah,
bunch of people that did nothing wrong. That's the
yeah.
even scarier part. If you do something wrong and they did everything perfect and they were completely loyal and did all their work, and you mess up, they
Hmm.
still suffer. That keeps you moving.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than having to lay somebody off because some business failure, economic failure.
Hmm.
some sort of mistake, or sometimes just business models change with different things, and there's nothing worse than having to lay somebody off because they did everything right, and it's fun to fire people who are bad and deserve it. I like that part. So talk to us about your company, Tomco Solutions. You're doing there. I think there's also an event you're working on, a summit, different things. Tell us about what you have going on there.
Yeah, so Tomco is a fully licensed construction firm in the state of Florida. We focus primarily on residential, but moving into the commercial space. So anything from just a simple kitchen and bath renovation or repair, all the way up to a custom new build. Insurance, disaster restoration, additions, ADUs, all kinds of cool stuff like that. We've also formed Tomco Capital Partners. I've started my own equity firm so that we aren't just looking for construction work anymore. We're actually starting to go out and look for capital to create our own construction projects from our perspective, where we can control not only the capital, but the construction. So we're not trying to find a contractor. We are. And so it's kind of like... yeah, we try to cut out the middleman. I mean, we're doing a lion's share of the work, and the extra 20% is going to somebody that's finding money. And we can find money too. I have a background in finance and accounting, and I'm like, why am I not utilizing that with my construction background? Why not use both and capture both sides? So to answer your other question, I have a big summit coming up. So my book is dropping on June 1st, which is my 40th birthday. A lot of people would just throw a quick small thing for their friends and have a big book signing. And I thought, no, let's do something bigger. Let's make something where people want to come and watch and attend and help them build their success. So it's not about me. This is about helping other people be successful. So we're actually calling it the Building Success Summit. We have 3 days worth of networking. We have vendor fairs. We have food, open bars. We have 15 panelists from all different industries, and some of them representing funds that are 3.5 or $4.5 billion in assets. We have a lot of ex-NFL players speaking. We have a lot of really cool people coming. And then we're going to wrap down one day with a live Rocky Horror Picture Show. We'll have a live cast for that. And then we're going to wrap up Sunday with luxury yacht tours and a sunset sail. So we're really trying to create it. So with networking, it's not just about meeting, it's about creating a shared experience. So if you create that shared experience and you bond like a sports team, win or lose, you start bonding in the locker room over that success or the failure, that experience that nobody else is sharing but your teammates. It's the same way with networking. If you can create these shared experiences of, wow, I helped a nonprofit and watch Rocky Horror while drinking open wine. That's something you have a story to tell about. It puts you in the mood to open yourself up to connections with not only the host, but with all the other guests as well. And that's all coming around June 1st. And you can find that at TommyWhitehead.com or BuildingSuccessEvent.com.
There you go. The great thing about being an entrepreneur is what you're doing. You're giving back. You reach a pinnacle of success and you're able to give back. And a lot of entrepreneurs do this. Why do you feel it's so important for entrepreneurs to have that motivation? It seems to come naturally to us. What do you think why that is?
I think if we can help one kid, hopefully 100 kids, hopefully 1,000 kids, break that cycle of poverty that you and I came up in, they're not all, let's face it, most people are not going to be as successful as you and I are. If they came from a poverty background, they're going to be subject to all those barriers that we just happen to overcome. And I don't want to say it's luck, because I don't think luck has anything to do with it. It's a skill set and it's the right opportunities. But if we get back, if we can help get kids shoes, if they can have affordable housing, and that's a big project I'm working on. If we can get into affordable housing where kids can have a good night's sleep, they do better in school the next day. Those kids that do better in school the next day, then go on to college or a trade program. Those kids that do better in the college or trade program, they get higher salaries. They start to break that cycle of poverty. And then their kids have better circumstances than we did. And it's just small changes. And you would be surprised. A lot of people think, oh, I don't have money to give back. Do you know a lot of these organizations want your time or expertise and not your money? Yeah. If you're a CPA and you don't have a lot of money because you're starting your firm, do you know doing the books for a small nonprofit that might take you an hour to a month is the equivalent of $12,000 to them? That's huge. Yeah. So there's lots of little things we can give back. You post somebody on a podcast. getting the word of their organization out. That is huge. Not everybody can offer that, but it doesn't cost you $1.
Yeah.
So giving back is fundamental to what I do. And I think every entrepreneur, I don't care how busy you are, give an hour a week, give some of your time, do something to put back in your community, because your community is the one that's supporting you, and you need to support them.
Yeah. And I think entrepreneurs understand the cyclical nature of that, or the cyclical is not the right word. The basically the support of one to another. We understand that a rising tide lifts all boats. How about that? And so we understand that if we lift others, they lift us. We all rise together. Entrepreneurs. I think part of it too is our mindset. Most entrepreneurs, they come across something that they don't like or that doesn't work well for them, and they go, I know how to build a better widget of this. And if I make these changes, and they kind of fire up a passion towards it, and then they end up making the world better. I mean, I think it was Earl Nightingale who used to say, you're basically, entrepreneurs make the world better and improve the world, and you're paid directly in value to what that is to the community and people who buy your product. And so whatever the cost is, certainly medical, if you do something medical, the value of that's much higher, because we value human life probably higher than we would, say, paper clips. So we don't pay as much for paper clips. I don't know. Some of you might be buying, hospital price level paper clips. I don't know. What are you doing at Staples?
$42.99 for one paper clip.
I think I've seen some expensive stuff like that. So, but that's kind of the beauty of what we do, and I think that's the kind of the what would you call it? The DNA chromosome of who we are. That, and the fact that, like you say, we lifted ourselves up. Not I wouldn't say 100% by our own bootstraps, because we had people that helped us along the way. Mm-hmm. But we kind of were the catalyst for starting that and doing that, because if we didn't start, nothing happens. And we just kind of see how our effects and impacts on the world and different things. So I think it's just kind of our DNA and how we're built, and it's part of the thing. But it's the greatest DNA ever, because giving back and supporting your community is doing things. And you're right, you can contribute. You can go down and serve food at the food bank. You don't have to write a check to people.
You got a car, Meals on Wheels, delivering and speaking to a senior for 15 minutes so that they don't see anybody all week. You can do all kinds of things. And I think you're absolutely right. Maybe we did pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but not without help. Yeah. And just because you can't see the help doesn't mean it's not out there. Mm-hmm. There's free help, sometimes in the form of government counseling, sometimes in the form of your local library. There are all kinds of consultants out there that are professionals like you and I that choose to give our skill sets to be mentors to small businesses. Yeah. I didn't get where I was at today by doing everything by myself. And I talk about that in my book. When you start to let go and give it over to allow other people to help you get past your ego, there's no sense of failure. There's no sense of shame. Everybody else around us, all the mega millionaires and billionaires, they all had help getting there. So why wouldn't us, growing up as the poor kids, need help too? Everybody does. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. And one day you're going to be in a spot to help somebody else. And I'm actually in that spot where I help other people through mentorship and connections and networking that I was helped with when I started.
Yeah. There's stories in my book, Beacon's Leadership, where I talk about 2 or 3 seminal moments in my life where someone took pity on me, basically, and offered me charity to help me out and also save my job and save my life. I didn't know it at the time, to help me learn sales. And without those moments, like, I can go looking back on those moments, and to this day I'll still shudder and think, what if that person had been less generous? What if that person had just fired me instead of trying to help me get lifted up? I just shudder to think what my life would have become, because I can literally trace most of the success in my life back to those moments. Those were the moments that were the fork in the road moments, that my journey went different. And like I say, looking back on them, I go, geez, what if I'd never had that opportunity, that fork in the road? I might still be, I don't know, I'd be somewhere probably not very happy, maybe. I don't know. It's you can't always look at life like, well, that would, if it would have been it would have been, completely like you never would have become an entrepreneur if that moment hadn't happened. But
Mhm.
geez, I sit and look at them and be like, thank God that moment happened. Thank God that was a marker in my life. So it made all the difference. Now, with your company, Tomco Solutions, are you primarily licensed in Tampa and in Florida, or can you do business outside of it? What's if people are out there listening and thinking about working with you on stuff, what's the prospects for them?
So for your average size home project, we stay in the Tampa Bay area. We are fully licensed in the entire state, but we are looking at and have been consulted on projects throughout the state that are larger. And I have done some consulting outside of the state. So from an investment perspective, if we're looking at a deal, I can be anywhere. From a self-performing construction perspective, I stay within inside the state of Florida. But we are the third most populous state, growing by thousands every day.
Wow,
I haven't had to step outside of the state to look for business. It's sitting right
that's
here
true.
and literally in my backyard.
Yeah. And with the disasters like hurricanes and stuff like that going on, you guys have plenty of remodeling that has to be done, unfortunately.
It happens. I mean, so we have
Yeah.
just the new builds and we have the regular renovations, and then everything, our world stops when a hurricane hits. I'm
Oh yeah.
still working on a house from Hurricane Ian, which was almost 2 years ago,
Really?
because of the delays in insurance,
Oh yeah.
delays in permitting, the delays in the mortgage, releasing funds after insurance was done.
Mm.
And I still haven't gotten paid in full for another house I've completed.
Wow.
Thanks to for that same hurricane. And it gets insane. So yeah, there's always going to be some level of work here in Florida.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's there's just between disasters and of course any man who's ever been married knows your wife wants to remodel the house every 3 years. So there's that. So this is why I've been single all my life. I never had anybody say to me, "We need to spend $30,000 to redo the kitchen." And I'm like, "Yeah, no." So there's that. That's why I'm single. So yeah, I don't. I see my friends do that where they're like, "We're gonna remodel the house." I'm like, I would just burn the house down and start over. Well, no, you should never construct a house either. I'd never be for that. That puts pressure on a marriage too. You just
Well, we
buy
have
it
some
as you go.
clients that I've told them, I said, "Hey, what you want to do? We really should raise your house and start over." I'm like, let's do that. I said you're gonna be much happier with the situation after that. So
Yeah,
you're not wrong. We've had a few times where it's like, yep, wipe it and start it clean.
yeah. Just nuke that thing. Make sure you're fired. No, don't do fire insurance fraud, people. I'm just joking around. But yeah, I've seen some people who are like, "We're doing a remodel project," and I'm like, "Don't you own a bulldozer? Like, just raise that thing to the ground and just start over." Like, you'll see them. I think there was a guy who bought a castle recently somewhere, probably in the UK, but he did a whole channel on the renovation of it, and it turns out I mean, it's just a money pit, really. It's like that movie with
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, where
It's funny. I referenced that movie in my book. So yes. So you got to make sure you buy your copy and read that, and you're going to laugh how you referenced it on your show, and
yeah.
it was in my book.
If I was ever married, there's two things I would never do. I would never do a renovation, and I wouldn't do new construction. It's just
Okay.
it's just a nightmare. I would just say, honey, whatever you want, just go. We'll just go buy it. Okay, that's how I roll on everything. Let's just go buy it. Like, hey Chris, you want to mow the lawn? No, let's just go buy someone to do that. Hey Chris, you want to clean the house? No, let's just go buy a maid. We'll do that. I don't do. There's certain things I've watched my friends go through, and I'm like that. Like some of my friends, they've almost lost their marriages over remodeling and construction. So
Yeah, well, but if you do the right plans and right expectations before you go in, then it's easier. It's still stressful. And I
yeah,
tell a lot of my clients, I tell them point blank, I said, "You love me right now." They're like, "Yeah, yeah, it's a great relationship." I said, "You're gonna hate me at some point." No, 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 we would never hate you. I said, "No, no, don't worry, don't get it wrong. You're gonna love me again at the end of the process, but you're gonna hate me right now." And so just make sure that's happening. Oh, that'll
yeah.
never happen, Tommy. All of a
Sounds like
sudden,
most of
midway through
my
the project, we're mad, but this is not happening. This is not happening. I'm like, okay, well, your insurance company hasn't paid. The inspector's not coming out from the bank or the county. This
yeah,
isn't happening. This isn't happening. I said, I told you these are all problems we could have that
yeah,
we hope we don't, but here's the expectations for it.
yeah,
Oh, you did say that, didn't you? Yeah. And I also told you
yeah.
you're going to hate me. You don't like me really very much right now, do you? And they're like, well, we wouldn't say that. Yeah, you would. That's okay.
Sounds like all the dating relationships I have. I have to give them the same warning. You may like me now, but later you're not.
Oh, it's a very short-term relationship with our clients. Yes, it's a quick college fling is what it is.
But it sounds like the important thing is to hire the right licensed contractor, someone like yourself who understands these things, gives people a pre-warning of what's going on. I know one problem your state has, and a lot of states has, is people who hire unlicensed contractors. Tell us why it's important to hire a licensed one to remind everybody not to be stupid.
I'll tell you one of my most recent ones. We get these fly-by-night roofing companies coming in after a storm, and they'll get your roof done in a day. And a licensed professional can get your roof done in a day. They're not pulling permits. Guess what? If you don't pull a permit on a roof and it's brand new, and your insurance company comes out to do an inspection, they look at the last permit pulled. So if the last permit was pulled 32 years ago, with a life expectancy of a roof being 25, they say you have to replace your roof, even if the shingles are brand new.
Wow.
That's how aggressive they're getting. They want proof that a licensed contractor installed it properly.
Oh, yeah.
That's the same if you're selling your house now. You have agents being a lot more strict. They say, we see a new kitchen, we see a new water heater. We want to see those permits. We don't want a handyman doing it. I've gone in and repaired plenty of houses that look beautiful, and then you open something up, and all of a sudden, you can tell a handyman was doing the plumbing. Nothing's up to code. Nothing was done correctly. Things are spliced where they shouldn't be. Breakers are popping. It's all because some guy with all of his armed with his YouTube knowledge and HDTV knowledge tried to do a renovation because he can do it for cheaper.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to the point where they're going to do permit histories when they're doing insurance applications. Wow. And they're going to look and see it. I see that coming. The insurance companies are looking for any way not to pay a claim. They're looking for any way to protect themselves and their investors. So they're going to do this kind of stuff. If they're doing it on roofs now, they're going to do it even further. But you're using a licensed contractor is important for so many reasons. It's the quality of the work. It's ensuring things are inspected properly. For insurance purposes, if you used an unlicensed contractor to do repairs that are then result in a fire in your house, your insurance company may not cover that because you use an unlicensed contractor to perform services and expose them to a needless risk. It's possible. It has happened before, but and it affects the saleability of your house. Like I said, that new roof is not new unless it has a permit. Don't care if it was done 100% correct. It is not new if it didn't have a permit.
Wow. How is the insurance situation looking in Florida? I know a lot of insurance people pulled out. I think California's going through the same thing.
California is going through the same thing. What they're dealing with fires, we're dealing with the increased weather activity for hurricanes. And so it's rough. Even the policies that are federally mandated don't cover everything. And if your house floods, it only covers some of the damages. It's rough in just regular markets where you're not in a heavy windborne area and you're not in a flood zone. Our insurance rates are still drastically going up, but that's just homeowners insurance. I just renewed my contractor's insurance, and the first thing they did was try to triple it. And I had to go back through and revise, and I got it down to just a 50% increase. Wow. And I've never had a claim or never had a loss, and now we're talking my liability insurance is for my company.
Yeah.
And so it's affecting us in all markets. But the bottom line is our land is appreciating quickly. Our property taxes here are still low, and we do kind of live in paradise. There. So, we have a lack of snow shovel sales down here. So if that's your profession, you don't want to move to Florida. But it's absolutely incredible. I don't see any snow, and I love that.
Don't you use snow shovels though for the scar faces down there moving cocaine? You gotta shovel it. And,
Chris, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, that's an 80s Scarface cocaine joke. They don't do that down there anymore. They don't move shit from wherever. Anyway, I had to do my Scarface Al Pacino reference. It's a law that we have to do that every show. So anything we haven't touched on about your book, your summit, and what you're doing there at TomCom?
I would think that just going back to the construction side is make sure you're using licensed and insured vendors. Not the cheapest. It's expensive owning a home. Don't get into a home if you aren't ready to spend it. Don't be a do-it-yourself warrior for big things. If you want to go to town and redo your landscaping bed, by all means, go and do that and spend your time, do something. If you think you can pull that wall down very easy yourself and you have no construction experience, don't do it. Don't do it. You're risking the integrity of your house and your marriage at the exact same time. And you might be able to deal with losing one, but you can't lose both at the same time.
That's true. I've dealt with people. They're like, "We're going to tear out that wall," and I'm like, "That's a load bearing wall. I think. I'm no pro, but
it'll be fine. I don't need a contractor for that."
Yeah. And they're like, "What's a load bearing wall?" And I'm like, "You should probably investigate this more. Talk to a licensed contractor." There you go. Well, Tommy, thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Easiest to find me is TommyWhitehead.com. You can find me at TomcoSolutions.com. And if you want to come to a kick-ass networking event and book launch, you want to go to BuildingSuccessEvent.com.
There you go. There you go. Well, Tommy, it's been fun to have you on. We've learned a lot, how to build our business and inspire some people. So hopefully we motivated a generation of entrepreneurs.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.
There you go. Thank you. Order up the book, folks, wherever fine books are sold too. Building Success, a toolbox for coming out on top. It's out June 1st, 2022. You can order it available now. Being an entrepreneur is one of the greatest things ever. It really is. Sometimes it has its bad moments, but, you learn to overcome them. You just never being self-accountable as an entrepreneur is like the one trait you have to learn, and it's the greatest trait that will self-actualize you like few things ever will in this world. Anyway, to my audience, go to goodreads.com/Chris Foss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Foss, Chris Foss 1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.